Little alien girl found the human's wallet and asked him for a shocking favor for her mother. Cold Line Mart kept the air cold enough to make breath show for a second. The floors were spotless and dry, and the white lights above the aisles made every surface look polished. Customers moved with quiet focus, picking up packaged meals and cuts of roasted meat. It was the kind of place where nothing smelled strong, nothing was out of place, and no one expected trouble. Myron Vale stepped through the entry gates with a small list in his head. A plate of Solvine glazed roast for dinner, Ferland seed coffee for the morning, and maybe Iric salt chips if the price hadn't jumped. He wore a dark field jacket and kept his shoulders squared. Not in a showy way, but like someone who never lost the habit of being aware. Before working as a supply inspector, he had served 5 years in orbital infantry. He left after an accident that cost 3 people in his unit their lives. Since then, he lived quietly, checked safety compliance for food vendors, and kept to himself. He didn't raise issues unless something crossed a line. Tonight, he wanted a quick purchase and to go home. He scanned exits automatically, out of old training, noting the clearest path if something went wrong. He didn't expect anything unusual here. Cold Line Mart wasn't a risky district. It was organized, efficient, and watched by polite customer service personnel who never raised their voices. He stopped near the prime cuts, fresh display, ring, and waited for the spit to turn. The smell of roasting meat and Solvine glaze pulled him closer. The glaze crackled under the heat, and fat dripped in steady lines. He planned to take a portion home, warm it again, eat, and sleep early. Then he saw her, inside the ring, behind a glass frame where meat cuts were usually displayed. A woman stood barefoot on the stainless surface. Her skin was a cool violet tone, smooth, with a faint natural shine. Long green hair hung straight down her back, still damp as if she had been rinsed. A translucent sanitation sash clung to her hips and chest, leaving most of her body exposed. A soft glow tag pressed against the skin at her collarbone. It displayed a line of text in pale blue. Biosubstrate, culinary display, non-sentient. The sight hit Myron with a quick rush of disbelief, then anger. Not loud anger. His face stayed still, but the kind that tightened his jaw and sharpened his focus. He watched her for a moment. She wasn't acting like a machine or a blank model. She held her shoulders tense, chin slightly raised, eyes alert. She was aware of being watched. She was aware of herself. A young clerk stood nearby with a training smile. Myron stepped closer. "Change her tag," Myron said quietly. The clerk blinked, unsure whether to laugh. "Sir, she's a demonstration model. She's here for culinary education sessions. The tag is part of the display. She understands what's happening," Myron said. "She's sentient. Update the tag." The clerk kept smiling, but discomfort grew behind his eyes. "I'm not able to alter corporate labeling. That requires a formal request." Myron shifted his weight slightly. He didn't raise his voice. "Then sell her to me." The clerk's smile faltered. "Sir, she's not a product. She isn't listed for. She's listed." Myron pointed at the wall panel displaying the contract. "Your terms show a misclassification override. I'm using it." A supervisor arrived, posture calm and rehearsed. Myron ignored him. He tapped through the contract lines with practiced efficiency. Years of military duty taught him to read operational fine print as if lives depended on it. He found the clause labeled misclassification override, selected it, and placed his item chip on the register. The confirmation tone sounded. "Transaction complete." For a second, no one moved. The supervisor looked at his tablet, then at Myron, then at the woman. There was no procedure for this moment. Myron lifted the sanitation gate with a firm pull. It opened without resistance. The woman flinched slightly at the motion, not out of fear, more like she expected to be stopped. When she stepped down, her footing was shaky. Myron caught his cloak, unhooked it, and wrapped it around her shoulders. The tag flickered under the fabric and dimmed until it went dark. No alarm sounded. No guards approached. The most anyone did was stare, then look away quickly. Myron could feel her shivering under the cold. She was light, probably underfed. He adjusted the cloak to cover more of her body. People around them kept pretending nothing unusual happened. That bothered him more than shouting would have. They walked out of the display ring and onto the concourse. Warm air from food kiosks hit them. Vendors grilled meat and Draxon mushrooms on open burners, steam rising into the walkway. People waited in neat lines. The contrast felt wrong. Her skin still cold, the cloak barely warming her, while the rest of the world continued smoothly. After a few steps, she spoke. Her voice was rough but steady. "You paid to erase a label." "Yes," he said, "not to claim ownership." "No." She studied him with a focused stare. Not grateful, not frightened, evaluating. "My name is Asha," she said. "Myron," he answered. They passed a clothing stall selling practical wraps and shawls. Myron stopped. "Choose what you want." She hesitated only a moment. He faced outward, holding the cloak as a privacy barrier while she changed. She selected a stormweave wrap with a slit up the thigh and a simple algae silk halter. When she stepped back into the open, she didn't hide. Her shoulders were pulled back. She was choosing how she looked, not accepting whatever strangers covered her with. "In my culture," Asha said, "accepting freedom creates bond debt. It isn't slavery, it's balance. I must repay the action that freed me. I'm not asking for anything. That doesn't cancel the bond. I decide how to settle it. Work, guidance, or service that restores balance. You don't get to define it." There was no aggression in her voice, just clarity. Myra nodded. "All right, your terms." As they moved toward the exit, a Cold Line PR representative approached. She wore a clean badge, friendly expression fixed in place, tone soft enough to sound reasonable to bystanders. "Sir, ma'am, I'm here to avoid confusion. The demonstration cycle hasn't been completed. If you return for a short closing session, we can register the engagement as successful. It will prevent public misunderstanding." Asha stiffened, grip tightening on the cloak. Myron's instinct was to step between them, but he stopped himself. He shifted only enough to stand at Asha's side, giving her space to speak or stay silent. "Show me the terms," he said. The rep handed him a tablet. He scrolled quickly. Myron recognized the strategy. Polite coercion disguised as procedure. He located a rule he knew of, Civic Dignity Statute 11C. It allowed immediate release from any classification if the subject displayed awareness, choice, or self-directed behavior. He returned the tablet. The contract ended the moment she spoke and acted by choice. "It's closed. Update your training." The PR rep's expression strained. "If you sign a continuity form." "No," Asha's voice cut in. "Clear. We're done." The rep left, forced smile fading as soon as she turned. Myron noted Asha's breathing change, quicker, then calming. He understood that feeling. Being treated like a thing was one kind of harm. Being asked to quietly accept it was another. They reached a quieter section of the concourse. Myron stopped at a railing overlooking a music garden below. People sat outdoors, listening to low, steady notes from glass string instruments. Asha turned to him. "You bought me to break the system, not to use me. That matters. But I'm not going to your home tonight. I need to choose my next step myself." Myron respected that. "I'll get you a place to stay for the night. A safe one." He booked a private sleep pod, clean, with independent lock access, so only she controlled the door. He handed her the code. She looked at him for a long moment, searching his face for hidden intent. She didn't find any. One more thing weighed on her. He could see it in her shoulders. She reached under the cloak, removed the dead tag, and placed it in his hand. "Keep it, not as a trophy, as proof of what you did." He closed his fingers around it. The tag was still warm from her skin. She stepped inside the pod. The door sealed. Myron remained in the corridor for a few seconds. He wasn't sure what came next, but he knew he had crossed a line he couldn't ignore. He came here for dinner and routine. Instead, he left with responsibility, one he wasn't sure how to manage, but he wasn't stepping back from it. He walked away with the discarded tag in his pocket, feeling its weight more than he expected. The corridor lights in the lower transit level flickered once before stabilizing. Myron waited there for a few seconds, listening for any sign of pursuit or attention from the market security drones. Nothing came. No alarms, no footsteps, just the steady hum of the air filters pushing recycled oxygen through the ducts. He let out a slow breath, realizing his heart was still racing, not from fear of being caught, but from what he had just done. He had crossed a line he'd spent years avoiding, interfering. He had promised himself after the war that he wouldn't involve himself in other people's problems again. His job as a supply auditor was clean, simple, quiet. He checked numbers, flagged violations, and stayed invisible. But the moment he saw that tag on her neck, the part of him that once made quick calls under fire had come back online. He didn't even think. He just acted. He leaned against the wall, unclipping his item chip from the scanner and checking its log. The purchase was processed successfully. No alerts, no investigation pending. Cold Line Mart had already adjusted the transaction under Display Asset Disposal. To the system, she was garbage. To him, she was standing 10 meters away, behind a transparent door, trying to figure out if she could trust him. Through the narrow viewing strip of the pod, he saw Asha sitting on the built-in seat. The dark cloak was wrapped tight around her body. She was staring at her hands as if trying to remember what to do with them. Her green hair had started to dry, curling slightly near the ends. When she looked up and caught his gaze through the glass, she didn't look frightened. She looked alert, testing him. He tapped the control panel. "You have full privacy," he said. "Door lock is coded to you only. No external override." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "You expect me to believe that? You can check the settings yourself. You'll see it's clean." She hesitated, then stood and approached the console inside. Her fingers moved fast, efficiently. She knew the interface. After a few seconds, she looked back at him. "You're right. No override. I'll be nearby," Myron said. "Room 12 across the corridor. You need food or heat, call the intercom. You'll get a response." "Why are you still here?" she asked, voice low, almost cautious. He thought for a moment before answering. "Because I'm responsible for the thing I break. You were part of a system. I broke it." Her expression changed, a quick flicker of recognition. She had heard that kind of guilt before, probably from someone else. "And after you fix it?" He didn't answer right away. "Then I walk away." Asha gave a short nod, not agreement, but acknowledgement. Then she shut the door. He stood outside longer than necessary, waiting until the light over her pod turned amber, sleep mode. Only then did he go to his own room. Inside, the unit was small but clean. A bed, a table, a basic wash compartment. He poured water from the wall spigot into a metal cup and drank it all in one go. His hands still trembled faintly, not from adrenaline anymore, but from memory. He had seen that same look in people before, back when colonies fell and humans traded lives like currency. He removed the dead tag from his pocket and set it on the table. The faint blue letters still shimmered under the surface, non-sentient. He turned it over. The backside was blank smooth. Something about it bothered him. He activated his tablet and scanned the serial. The code was legitimate, but listed under a culinary subsidiary that hadn't renewed its ethics certification in over a year. That explained how they got away with it. Legal neglect wasn't the same as illegality. It was the kind of gray area corporations built to keep their hands clean. He sat back, exhaling. "You wanted quiet," he muttered to himself. "You always want quiet." The next morning came with soft mechanical chimes from the corridor's auto light system. Myron didn't sleep much. He cleaned up, tied his hair back, and walked out. The pot across from him was still locked from inside, status light green. He knocked once. A pause, then her voice. "I'm awake." The door opened a second later. Asha stood there wrapped in his cloak again, hair freshly washed with the pod's sanitizer mist, skin now showing a faint, healthy glow. The previous day's exhaustion was still in her eyes, but something else had settled underneath control. "I checked the civic database," she said. "They didn't report the transaction as a complaint." "They won't," Myron said. The moment the override went through, the chain of ownership collapsed. "It's a paperwork void. They'll file it as a display asset loss." "So I'm technically nothing," she said flatly. "You're unlisted," he corrected. "Not nothing." Asha tilted her head slightly. "That's worse. At least nothing doesn't get found." Myron understood what she meant. In most colonies, being unlisted meant no housing rights, no med access, no transit eligibility. The system didn't punish you. It just forgot you existed. He rubbed the scar near his temple, thinking, there's a registry office in the upper promenade. I can file a temporary Civ ID. It'll cover housing and food for now. Asha studied him for a long second. Why would you do that? He didn't flinch. Because you're not a display. Because you talk to me. That answer seemed to surprise her. She folded the cloak tighter around herself. I can't go back to my own people, she said. The bond debt rules won't allow it. They'd say I owe a balance to you now. He frowned. I don't want debt. I didn't say you did, she said quietly. But I have to settle it before I'm free again. He didn't argue. He recognized the tone. It was the same kind of discipline he'd carried after the war, the need to control what little of yourself was left. They ate together at a nearby kiosk. He ordered roasted meat and drank some mushroom strips. She refused the sweet drinks and asked for plain boiled water. When she ate, she did so carefully, as if reminding herself how to take pleasure without shame. For a while, neither spoke. Then she asked, "Why were you even there? You don't look like someone who shops for comfort food." He gave a short smile that barely reached his eyes. "I work for supply oversight. I was checking the temperature consistency in their cold units. Simple job. And yet you interfered," she said. "I've seen worse," he replied. "Didn't think I'd see it again. Didn't plan to." Her voice softened. "But you did." He nodded once. "Yeah, I did." When they finished eating, he pulled a tablet from his jacket. "There's a civic registry 3 levels up. It's quiet this time of day. We can walk there before the market crowd picks up." Asha adjusted the wrap, securing it with a simple knot. "If we do this," she said, "you'll be listed as my bond witness." "What does that mean?" "It means if I disappear, your name stays on record. The balance transfers to your name. You'd carry the moral debt." He exhaled slowly. "I'll take that." She looked at him, searching for irony. There was none. They stepped onto the upward conveyor, side by side. The glass-free walkway stretched ahead, opening toward the upper promenade. Outside, through wide panels, Aurelis Prime's skyline shimmered. Towers of algae glass and mist collectors turning slowly under the pale sun. Myron watched the light pass over her face. She didn't look like a rescued victim. She looked like someone building a plan. That steadiness made him uneasy in a way he couldn't explain. Maybe because it reminded him of himself. As they approached the civic registry, Asha slowed. "When I sign this, I could become visible again," she said quietly. "That means the people who labeled me will know I'm alive." Myron stopped beside her. "Do you want to stay invisible?" Her jaw tightened. "No, I just want to choose how I'm seen." He nodded. "Then we make sure they see you right." Inside the registry, a line of people waited under quiet lights. The air smelled of disinfectant and machine oil. Myron reached for the console and began filling in her details manually. Nothing too specific, just enough to make her existence official again. Asha stood beside him, still and composed. When the final confirmation tone sounded, she placed her thumb on the scanner. The screen glowed green. She looked down at her name. Asha listed again for the first time in years and whispered something under her breath. Myron didn't catch the words, but the look in her eyes said enough. Relief mixed with fear. He stepped back to give her space. He knew what came next. New questions, new complications. But he also knew this much. He wasn't walking away. Not yet. The registry terminal printed a thin card with Asha's temporary civic ID. It looked fragile for something that decided whether a person mattered on Aurelis Prime. She held it between 2 fingers, studying the embedded code. The green light, pulsing at the corner, indicated active status. It wasn't much, but it meant she had the right to exist in the city again. A young clerk at the counter cleared his throat. "You'll need to finalize a residential link within 72 hours, or the ID will expire. If you require housing assistance." "We're fine," Myron said before the clerk finished. He didn't want Asha pushed into a state shelter. State shelters on Aurelis were clean, but monitored, and monitored meant watched. Asha needed space to breathe, not another controlled room disguised as kindness. Asha slid the card into a small cloth pouch the registry provided. "If the ID expires, what happens?" she asked the clerk. "You go back to unlisted status," he replied. "No penalty, just no access." Asha's jaw clenched. That was the polite way of saying, you stop existing in the system again. She nodded. thanked him, and stepped away. Once outside, the midday crowd had thickened. People in tidy uniforms, polished shoes, and quiet calms walked with purpose. No one looked twice at Asha now, not because she blended in, but because the registry stamp on her pouch made her official enough to ignore. They moved toward a quieter terrace, overlooking a line of algae towers swaying in the wind. Myron chose that path intentionally. It gave her space, no tight corners, no loud vendors pressing in. "You didn't ask how I ended up in that display ring," Asha said. "You'll tell me if you want to," he answered. She stopped, forcing him to face her. "People want to know. You must be curious." He took a breath, steady. "Yes, but I'm not owed your history." Her eyes lingered on him for a moment, as if she was trying to decide if he was being honest or polite. The short version is this. I signed a demonstration contract for cultural culinary work. It paid well. It looked clean. Then a clause I missed turned consent into property classification. They used the term voluntary sensory model. I didn't realize the clause allowed them to strip my sentience in the record. "You signed under pressure?" Myron asked. "Yes. I sent half the credits to my younger sister for schooling. I was supposed to be an example of interspecies culinary harmony. That's how they sold it." She shook her head. "Once I was tagged, the contract locked. They called it content authenticity." Myron's chest tightened, not with pity, but with a familiar frustration. Bureaucratic cruelty always came wrapped in soft language. "You have family here?" he asked. "No, off-world. And before you think it, no, I won't contact them. Bond debt rules. They'd say, I owe you, and until that's cleared, I can't show my face there." She paused. My sister wouldn't understand. Myron thought for a moment, then surprised himself with the next question. "What would settling the bond look like for you?" "I don't know yet," she admitted, "but it has to be something of value. Something chosen, not servitude. Balance can't look like obedience." She had a firm spine under everything. He respected that more than any gratitude she could give him. Before he could respond, a small group of Cold Line staff passed by, 2 men and a woman in pale uniforms. One of them slowed, recognized Asha, and gave a short, awkward smile. "Oh, you're the display from yesterday," the woman said, too casually. "You got pulled early? What a mess, right?" Asha stiffened, but didn't react outwardly. Myron stepped half an inch closer, not blocking, just present. Asha met the woman's gaze. "I wasn't a display. I was misclassified." The woman gave an uncomfortable half-laugh. "Of course. Well, glad you're sorted out." They hurried off. Myron watched Asha's shoulders drop only after they were gone. "You handle that well," he said. "No," she said quietly. "I endured it. There's a difference." He wanted to ask if she was okay, but stopped. The question would land wrong. She didn't need comfort. She needed control. They continued toward the quieter residential blocks. Asha kept pace, but he noticed she walked slightly behind him, not out of fear but habit. People who had been objectified learned to take up less space. He slowed until they walked side by side again. "You said something last night," she said, "that you're responsible for what you break. What did you break before?" He didn't answer immediately. He had hoped to avoid this for longer, but she had given him honesty. She deserved the same. "My last unit in the infantry," he said. "I approved a shortcut on an exfil route. It looked safe. It wasn't. 3 people died." His voice stayed level, but the memory punched through his ribs the way it always did. "After that, I stopped taking risks. I stopped making decisions that affected anyone but me." "And then you made one again," she said, not as praise or accusation, just fact. "Yes." Asha didn't push further. She didn't offer sympathy either. Instead, she asked something unexpected. "When you saw me in that ring, what was your first thought?" "Not the act you took. The first thought." He answered honestly. "Anger. Not because of what they did to you. Because everyone watching accepted it." Asha's expression shifted, a small but real change. "That, I understand." They reached a quieter street lined with small residential units, balconies with drying linens, and food kiosks offering late lunch. This was not a wealthy street. It felt lived in. Real. No corporate sheen. A small vendor raised a hand. Fresh grilled meat plates. No additives. 2 for 1 before afternoon break. "Hungry?" Myron looked at Asha. She nodded. They sat at a corner table. The vendor placed 2 plates down, grilled meat, spiced rice, and roasted roots. Asha picked up the fork, then paused, looking at Myron. "Before we eat," she said, "I need one thing clear. You're not responsible for me. Not because you freed me. Not because the system sees your name next to mine. I choose what comes next." He met her eyes. "Understood, but understand something in return. I'm not walking away just because the registry stamped you in. Not until I know you're standing on solid ground." She considered that, then lifted a bite of food to her mouth. "Then stay. For now." It wasn't a promise. It was an agreement. As they ate, something subtle settled between them. Not comfort, not trust, but the first piece of steady ground. They ate in silence for a few moments, tasting the food, the heat, the spice. Asha's shoulders eased as flavor hit her senses. The simple pleasure of a meal chosen, not given. This time, she finished first. She leaned back slightly. "So, what now?" Myron wiped his hands and thought carefully. "Now we find a place for you to stay long-term. Then we figure out how you want to settle this bond. And we make sure Cold Line can't touch you again." Asha looked at him with a small, measured smile. "You say a lot for a man who claims he'll walk away." "I'll walk away when I'm not needed," he said. "Not before." She nodded once, accepting the terms. Neither of them saw the small camera band attached to a building corner nearby quietly pivot to face them, its lens adjusting focus. The vendor cleared the plates with a nod, leaving behind the smell of charred meat and spice. The air carried a late afternoon warmth, and the street noise had thinned as workers returned to shifts. Myron noticed Asha scanning the rooftops and corners more now, as if she sensed something. He followed her line of sight. The camera band on the building had turned toward them. Its lens adjusted with a soft click. Asha's posture tightened. That camera wasn't facing us before. Myron kept his voice even. "Ignore it for now. Could be routine street monitoring." But he knew it wasn't routine. Residential cameras didn't track individuals unless flagged. Someone either recognized Asha or him. That meant their margin for privacy was shrinking. Before she could dwell on it, he stood. "Come on. We're not staying in one place too long." They walked away at a natural pace. Myron didn't look back at the camera, but he tracked reflections in windows and metal signs as they moved. No one followed. No drones. No uniformed staff. Still, the camera was a reminder of a detail he hadn't explained yet. Why Cold Line might want her back, even without a contract. As they moved through a quieter sector of the promenade, Asha asked the question he knew was coming. If the contract ended and the tag was voided, why would they track me? "You said they lost the right to reclaim me." "They did," Myron said. "Legally, you're free. But corporations hate loose ends that make them look bad. They might not want to recapture you. They might want to control the story." Asha processed that without panic, but the tension in her shoulders didn't ease. "So they don't want me. They want silence. They want to avoid accountability," he corrected. If a sentient being was mislabeled and displayed as non-sentient, that's a scandal. Even if it was legally gray. "You expect them to come after us?" "No," Myron said. "If they act, it won't be direct. It'll be polite. A clarification request, a formal interview, an offer to make amends quietly. They'll try to ease the problem out of sight." He glanced at her, "Which is why we stay visible for now. Public moves are safer than private ones." Asha gave a dry exhale. "You're calm for someone who may have caused a corporate embarrassment." "I've seen worse than corporate embarrassment," he replied. "And I'm not alone this time." That last sentence slipped out before he could weigh it. Asha caught it. She didn't comment, but something changed in her eyes, something that looked like the first layer of trust forming, cautious but real. To address the earlier curiosity that listeners would have, Asha's removal from her culture, her family, and the bond debt rules, she spoke first. "In my community, if you accept help, food, shelter, freedom, you must return it with something equal. It's our way of keeping dignity balanced. If I returned home now, without settling the debt I owe you, I would be treated as unfinished, out of order. My family would be shamed for accepting me." Myron understood this better than he expected. "You're saying your culture sees imbalance as damage." "Yes. A person should never live owing or owed. Harmony needs equilibrium. That's not servitude, he said. That's structure. Asha nodded. Exactly. I don't obey you. I balance with you. That distinction mattered for her identity and for the audience who might assume a rescue equals ownership dynamic. It wasn't that. It never would be. They reached a multi-level housing sector where small private units lined an inner courtyard. Children played with neon hoops. Adults sat on balconies drinking heated broth. It wasn't expensive housing, but it was clean, stable, and neutral territory. The kind of place where neighbors didn't pry unless noise broke routine. We'll look for a temporary lease, Myron said. Short-term rental. You'll have your own space. Asha studied his profile. Why not your place? Because that would force a dynamic you haven't agreed to, he answered without hesitation. You need your own ground first. Her expression softened with a mix of respect and confusion. You don't make this easy to resent. The rental kiosk was an automated booth. Myron handled the paperwork quickly, but the system flagged Asha's ID. She saw the alert flash. Why red? She asked. Myron leaned closer to the screen. Your ID is valid, but there's a note. Pending review for contract continuity. That's fast. Someone filed something already. Asha's breath tightened. Cold line. Likely. They're testing whether you'll respond. If you do, they regain leverage. The system offered two options. Schedule review interview. Decline and proceed with liability waiver. Myron selected decline and waive, then entered his own credentials as financial guarantor. The booth approved the rental. Asha frowned. You keep putting your name next to mine. That's how the system works, he said. But I'm not trapping you. If you choose to separate later, you'll have full legal footing. She absorbed this in silence. They entered the small apartment. It had a single bedroom, a compact kitchen, and a window facing the courtyard. The simplicity felt safe. Asha walked the space slowly, testing each corner as if checking for invisible strings. She touched the wall, the counter, the window latch. Then she turned to him. It feels real, she said. It is, he replied. She placed the pouch with her ID on the table. Before you leave, there's something I didn't answer fully. Myron leaned against the counter. I'm listening. You asked if I signed under pressure. The truth is worse. I did it willingly because I thought I was strong enough to handle anything they asked. I believed I could bend the system without it bending me. Her eyes held his. I was wrong, and admitting that isn't easy. Myron stepped closer, not touching her, but near enough that she felt supported. You're not the only one who thought they were unbreakable once. She looked at him for a long moment. Maybe that's why you act the way you do. You're not trying to save me. You're trying not to repeat a mistake. He didn't deny it. Asha moved toward the door and opened it slightly, giving him the silent cue that she needed space to settle. He understood and walked out. Before he stepped in the hallway, she spoke again. Myron, thank you for not treating me like something fragile. People either tried to use me or protect me like a child. You did neither. I'm not here to make decisions for you, he said, only to make sure you get the chance to make them. He left her with that. As he walked down the corridor, he passed the reflection of another camera band angled toward their door, but this one wasn't city-owned. Someone had taken interest, and it wasn't the government. The story was no longer private. Myron didn't go far. He stopped at the stairwell one floor down from Asha's new apartment and waited, leaning on the wall where no camera had a direct angle. His pulse had steadied, but his mind was still working, mapping exits, neighbors, and blind spots. Whoever placed that second camera wasn't an amateur. Private cameras on residential floors meant someone had money, intention, or both. He needed confirmation before involving Asha. He pulled his small field scanner from his jacket. Old infantry tech he kept even after discharge. He swept it once along the stairwell railing. A faint ping appeared. Not city-coded, not cold line branded, independent. He stored the frequency ID. Upstairs, he heard Asha moving, slow footsteps, then a soft click. She was likely testing the door locks again, making sure space belonged to her. Good. She needed control. He gave her 20 minutes to settle before returning. When he knocked, she opened immediately, like she had been standing near the door listening. You didn't go home, she said. No. He walked inside, paused near the small table. Before you unpack, I need to ask something. Are you certain no one from your past would track you here? Family, old employer, anyone who might have a reason to follow. Asha closed the door and leaned against it. My family wouldn't. They don't have the means. As for the contract handlers, once a display asset is disposed, they usually erase the file. I wasn't worth that much to them. She paused. Why? I saw another camera pointed at this floor, he said plainly. Not city-owned. Someone is watching this building. The tension returned to her shoulders, but she didn't panic. Cold line. Maybe. But Cold Line prefers clean PR rooms and official requests. Private cameras suggest something else. Someone wants first-hand footage, not paperwork. Asha considered this. Could be buyers. Myron watched her carefully. Explain. Some individuals pay for the experience of interacting with species who were once display models. They collect them like art, liberated assets with a story attached. To them, I'd be a novelty. Her words were steady, but he caught the flash of shame under them. Not shame about herself. Shame for being forced into someone else's narrative. You're not for sale. Not again, he said, tone firm. I know, but those people don't respect rules. He stepped closer. I need the full truth, Asha. If someone expected you to remain in that display contract long enough to be acquired unofficially, we may have a problem larger than Cold Line PR. She took a few seconds before answering. During the contract screening, one investor asked if I was transfer rights eligible. I didn't know what he meant. I thought he was just checking if I was allowed to work off-world. Later, I learned the term refers to private ownership contracts that bypass civic protections. I refused a separate agreement he offered. He didn't take it well. Myra now understood the camera, not Cold Line. A private collector testing the waters. He kept his voice level. You should have told me. I wasn't sure it mattered, she said. It matters now. Asha moved to the small window and looked down at the courtyard, watching families laugh and children chase neon hoops. They don't care about dignity. They care about controlling a story. A rescue display asset makes them feel powerful. We won't let them near you. We? She asked, raising an eyebrow. You said stay for now. I'm staying until this thread ends. There was a long pause. She didn't thank him. She didn't reject him either. Instead, she shifted the subject to something she had been holding since the registry. There's something I should clarify, she said, turning to face him fully. Bond debt doesn't always end with labor. Sometimes it ends with a vow, a public declaration that redefines the relationship from imbalance to choice. My culture calls it a balance mark. It's not romantic by default, but it creates a permanent tie unless both sides dissolve it. You're warning me, Myron said. Yes, if I choose that path, it affects your life. He held her gaze. Let me be clear. I didn't free you to collect a vow or tie you to me. If you choose it, it will be because it gives you closure, not because you think I need it. She absorbed that quietly. A sudden knock at the door made them both stiffen. 3 short taps. Not security. Not a neighbor greeting. A deliberate pattern. Myron signaled with one hand, silent instruction to stay behind the kitchen counter. She obeyed without argument. He opened the door, only a crack. A delivery drone hovered at eye level, holding a sleek envelope against a magnetic strip. No logo. No sender listed. The drone scanned Myron's face and attached the envelope to the door before floating away. Asha stepped closer as he unsealed it. Inside was a single card. Printed text, small and polite. We would like to discuss the transition of the display asset designated Asha. A private settlement can benefit all parties. Please contact us before we are forced to escalate. Below was a contact code. No company name. No signature. Asha's jaw tightened. They're moving fast. Myron read the back. A handwritten note. You removed something that wasn't yours to remove. We expect cooperation. He burned the card in the sink with a kitchen igniter, watching the edges curl. Asha watched him. What now? He met her eyes. Now we prepare for contact on our terms. And we make you more than what they labeled you. If you're visible, you need a public identity that can't be erased again. She frowned. What does that mean? It means tomorrow, you're not hiding. You're choosing how this city sees you. And I'll be beside you when it happens. For the first time since he met her, She didn't look like someone waiting for the next hit. She looked like someone ready to stand in the open. But when she glanced once more at the window, a hint of fear remained. Enough to remind them both what was at stake if they failed. Asha barely slept. Myron heard her pacing once during the night, light steps moving from window to door, checking the lock more than once. He didn't interfere. He understood the need. When freedom was new, silence felt dangerous. He slept lightly himself in the chair near the door, boots still on, jacket folded nearby, body ready to respond if someone tried to enter. At first light, neighborhood sounds filtered in, the metallic rattle of delivery carts, distant kettle whistles, and footsteps of early workers. Normal life had resumed outside, but the tension in the apartment hadn't broken yet. Asha emerged from the bedroom wearing the stormweave wrap and halter, her hair tied back in a simple knot. Her eyes looked sharper, focused. She had made a decision, but not one she seemed comfortable with yet. "We need to talk before we go outside," she said. She stood opposite him at the small table. "You said we would make the city see me for who I am. What does that involve? I won't be paraded, and I won't perform." "You won't," Myron said. "But right now, the story people know is that a market display walked away. If we let others define that story, they'll paint you as unstable or manipulated or still owned. We're going to replace that narrative with one that makes it impossible to reduce you to an object again." Asha crossed her arms. "Ow! By choosing public ground where they can't twist it. You speak first. I back you, not lead." Her suspicion didn't fade. "And you think the city will care?" "No, most won't," he admitted. "But enough will. The right ones." She absorbed this in silence, then nodded once. "Then I need to look intentional, not like someone you dragged along. I need clothes that say I chose myself, not a cloak that hides me." Myron stood. "There's a tailor 2 levels up. Not luxury, but custom. Neutral territory." "Neutral is good," she said. Before they left, Myron opened a packet he had picked up from his old infantry locker, a small, flat device that looked like a patch. He pressed it onto the doorframe. The device hummed, syncing with the apartment's frequency. "What is that?" Asha asked. "Tamper alert. If anyone tries to open this door while we're gone, I'll know," he said, showing her the linked signal on his comm. "If someone enters forcefully, the patch burns the lock. They'd have to break the door down, and the neighbors would hear." For the first time since the envelope arrived, Asha's posture eased a little. "You came prepared." "No," he corrected. "I learned the hard way not to be caught unprepared." They stepped into the hallway. Myron walked slightly behind her, not leading, but making sure no one shadowed them. As they reached the conveyor lift, Asha spoke again, voice lower. "You haven't asked why I refused the investor's contract. You assumed I resisted because it was wrong." "I didn't assume," Myron said. "I hope." She took a breath, steadying herself. "I refused because he wanted ownership of my likeness. Not my work, my likeness. Every time I breathed, moved, or spoke, he wanted to claim it as performance data. If I signed, I wouldn't exist anywhere except through him." Myron's jaw tightened. "You don't belong to anyone." "No," she agreed. "But I came close to belonging to everyone." They reached the tailor, an older man with folded sleeves, measuring band around his neck, and impatient eyes that softened only when he saw Asha. She stood still as he measured fabric along her shoulders, arms, waist, and hips. She didn't flinch when his hands worked quickly. She held his gaze, asserting she wasn't a passive display being dressed. Myron sat nearby, watching the door, watching the mirror behind him, watching the street. His guard never dropped. Asha chose fabrics, practical but striking. A fitted charcoal wrap that crossed at the chest, revealed her midline by choice, and tied with a brass clasp at her spine. Narrow ankle strips that kept her movements free, not restricted. A thin wristband that displayed her civic ID with her name visible, not the number. When she stepped out wearing it, the tailor paused, surprised. She looked like someone who belonged here. Not hidden, not made to perform, just present, unapologetic. Myron stood and met her eyes. "You look like you walked in on your own terms." Asha held his stare. "That's the point." They walked toward the central promenade, where public voices carried. The crowd had already formed for the mid-morning food market. Vendors called out for grilled meat plates, spiced tea, and fried roots. Conversations blended into a steady hum. Asha slowed, sensing the weight of the moment. If I speak here, there's no turning back. They'll know my face, my name. Yes, Myron said. And if anyone tries to rewrite your story after this, there will be witnesses. A familiar detail many listeners would wonder, why wasn't Myron filming for proof? He addressed it before Asha could ask. I'm not using a recorder, he said. People talk differently when they know they're being filmed. If this feels staged, it loses credibility. If someone films naturally, let it happen. Organic witnesses carry more weight than official reports. Asha considered the logic, then nodded. All right. She stepped onto a low platform where buskers usually played. Today, no one was there. She turned to face the crowd, her voice steady but not raised. My name is Asha, she said, clear enough to carry. Yesterday, I stood inside Cold Line Mart's display ring labeled as non-sentient. I was not an object. I was misclassified for profit and convenience. People stopped. A group of students turned. A vendor lowered a ladle. Asha continued, I'm here today to say this. I won't disappear quietly because a mistake was easier for others to accept than the truth. I am registered, I am free, and I will not allow anyone to shape my story into something that makes them comfortable. Whispers rose, quick and scattered. Some curious, some uneasy, but none dismissive. Asha stepped down. It was short, direct, uncovered, exactly as it needed to be. As she rejoined Myron, a woman approached. Not hostile, not corporate. A citizen. She held out a small wrapped piece of grilled meat on a skewer. For strength, the woman said simply. Asha accepted it with a small bow. Not submissive, but respectful. Myron leaned closer and spoke quietly. Someone recorded that. I know, Asha murmured. I wanted them to. They began walking again, but this time, Asha wasn't shrinking or watching corners. She was walking at full height, and the city saw her. For the first time, Myron noticed something. People weren't looking at him as the rescuer. They were looking at her as a person with a voice. And that shift was exactly what they needed. The reaction to Asha's public statement spread faster than either of them expected. Not viral, not explosive. Aurelis Prime wasn't the kind of place where crowds cheered or chanted, but people talked. Quietly, in corners, in work queues, in break rooms. The kind of conversations that made institutions nervous. By late afternoon, the footage had already reached the screens of those who paid attention to civic shifts. Not the news, not officials. The citizens who disliked being lied to. The people who looked for signs that someone had broken the script. Myron and Asha didn't return to the apartment immediately. Returning too fast would look like hiding. Instead, they wandered through public spaces, visible, calm, unbothered. Myron watched for tails. He noted no one following on foot, no repeated faces, no lingering observers. But he felt an invisible pressure, like a ripple in the air just before a storm. Asha felt it too. They're planning a response, she said. Yes, Myron replied. But they won't strike today. They'll wait until they think they can control the narrative. Then we stay unpredictable, she said. Hunger eventually pulled them to a quieter street. They chose a small eatery with outdoor seating, grilled meat served on flatbread with spice broth. Myron ordered for both of them, not out of control, but speed. Asha didn't object. As they ate, a question that many listeners from previous chapters would wonder, why Myron cared so deeply, finally surfaced. Asha asked it directly. Why did you break your rule for me? She said. You said you stopped interfering after losing your team. Why not ignore me like everyone else? Myron chewed, swallowed, wiped his hand on the napkin, then answered without trying to soften it. Because when I saw that tag on your skin, I saw my own mistake again. I watched a system swallow 3 people I was responsible for. I didn't fight it hard enough. I promised myself I'd never stand by again if I saw someone treated as disposable. Asha absorbed that. So saving me was about saving them. No, he said, meeting her eyes. Saving you was about not letting myself become the man who walked past. Asha didn't thank him. She didn't look away. She reached across the table and took a piece of his bread. Just one, breaking the shape of the moment with something mundane. Then you did the right thing, she said, eating it. Doesn't matter why you started. It was a simple gesture, but it stripped the heaviness away, grounding them back into reality. As evening set in, the city lights shifted from cool white to warm amber tones. Residential blocks glowed with cooking smells and open windows. They finally returned to the apartment. Myron scanned the hallway first. The tamper alert patch hadn't triggered. Good. Inside, Asha placed her ID pouch on the table again, as if weighing what it represented. She remained near the window while Myron checked the bathroom vents and the balcony latch. Habit, not paranoia. This is the first night I'm not in a cage, a pod, or a monitored room, Asha said quietly. You're safe here, he said. Safe isn't enough, she replied. I need to feel like I'm living, not hiding. Myra nodded. Then tomorrow we start building something, not just defending against something. Asha hesitated, then asked something more personal, another point listeners would naturally have wondered about. If Cold Line tries to silence this, if they make you choose between your job and staying involved, what will you do? Myron didn't need to think. I left one institution already because it cost people too much. I won't stay in another that asks the same. Her breath caught. Not dramatic, just a small, real reaction. Myron sat across from her, close enough that his voice stayed low. Asha, listen carefully. I didn't intend to be part of your life. I wanted quiet, routine, no connections. But I'm here now, and I'm not leaving you mid-fight. When you no longer need me, I'll go. Not before. Asha stepped closer, studying him with a slow, evaluating look. You keep saying that, but you don't act like someone ready to walk away. Because right now, you still need support, he said. When you stand without me and tell me to leave, I will. Asha's voice softened. What if I don't tell you to leave? The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It held possibility. Not romance. Not yet. But the early gravity of two people who had stopped seeing each other as accident and started seeing each other as choice. A soft chime interrupted the moment. The building's shared courier slot. A small parcel slid inside. Myron lifted it. No sender again. Too soon for another thread. So he opened it measuredly. Inside was a simple item. A sealed food pack, high-quality meat slices. Expensive. On top, a note. For the one who spoke. Stay strong. Not everyone wants you silent. Asha read it. Relief mixed with caution in her face. Support? Not support, Myron said. Alignment. Someone saw value in what you did. But stay careful. Praise can manipulate as much as threats. Asha sat on the couch, thinking. Tomorrow, I want to choose something for myself. Not survival. Not strategy. Something that feels like life. Myron took the parcel to the counter. Then tomorrow, we do something normal. We go somewhere that isn't about proving anything. She slid her legs up on the couch and leaned back. Not guarded, just tired. Normal. I barely remember what that feels like. You'll remember, he said. She watched him with a softer expression, trust, forming slow but real. If something happens to me, I don't want to disappear again. Make sure I leave a mark that doesn't belong to anyone. You already started that today, he said. We'll continue tomorrow. As she went to her room, she paused at the doorway. Myron, I don't feel alone anymore. That scares me more than being hunted. He understood. Being alone meant nothing could be taken from you. Connection meant risk. Fear means it matters, he said. Good night, Asha. She nodded once, then closed the door. He stayed awake a few minutes longer, monitoring the hallway through the peephole, then sat down in the chair again. Not beside her, not with her. Close enough to respond if she needed him. They were no longer just avoiding danger. They were walking toward a future that neither of them knew how to handle yet. But tonight, for the first time, that future felt like something worth fighting toward, not running from. Morning light filtered through the blinds, warmer than the cold illumination of the market or registry hall. It painted the small apartment in a tone that felt lived in instead of temporary. Asha woke on her own, not startled, not checking the locks first. That alone marked a shift. She got dressed in the outfit the tailor made, not the cloak, choosing herself again. Myron had already stepped out early and returned with a small wrapped breakfast from a street vendor. Fresh grilled meat folded in thin bread with a sharp herb mix. The kind of simple, normal meal that didn't come with fear attached. He set one on the table just as she walked out of the bedroom. "Morning," he said. Asha looked at the food, then at him. "You said today would be normal." "That's the goal," he said. "Eat. We're going out." They ate quietly, but not tensely. Asha noticed he wasn't watching the door as often, maybe on purpose, to help her feel that this day wasn't about threats. After breakfast, they left the apartment. Myron didn't walk half a step behind her today. He walked next to her. Asha noticed. She didn't comment, but her posture adjusted subtly, chin a touch higher, shoulders easier. The first place they went wasn't a market or a civic office. It was the public gardens near the mist collectors, an open space where families sat on grass and students gathered around small kiosks. Nothing formal, no stage, no pressure. Asha watched children chase iridescent bubbles released by a street performer. She exhaled slowly, like something inside her unclenched. "This doesn't feel like a Relish Prime," she said. "It's the part people forget exists," Myron replied. "Everyone gets so focused on rules and efficiency, they ignore the few corners built for living." They sat on a bench. Asha stretched her legs, toes brushing the trimmed grass. She scanned the area, not for danger this time, but for something she hadn't allowed herself in a long time: ease. "Before today goes further," she said, turning to him, "I want to address the bond debt before it becomes a shadow between us." He nodded. "Your terms, remember." She took a breath. "I thought I would repay with work or teaching, but that would keep us in a debt cycle, always counting value. I don't want that. I want balance, not accounting." "So what ends it?" Myron asked. "A vow. A balance mark," she said. "Not romantic unless both choose that. It's a declaration witnessed by someone neutral. It says, we met in imbalance and we leave in equality. After that, no one, my people or yours, can claim I owe anything." Listeners and readers would have wondered, what would this vow look like? Would it bind them? Would it push romance or refuse it? Asha answered those silent questions as if she knew someone was thinking them. "The vow doesn't force us together," she said. "It just removes the weight of obligation. If we stay in each other's lives after it, it's because we choose to, not because a rescue tied us." Myron considered that. "Then we do it. Today." Asha blinked, surprised he agreed so quickly. "You're sure?" "Yes," he said simply. "I don't want you staying near me out of debt. If you stay, it should be because you want to." Her breath shook, not from fear, but from the unexpected relief of being seen clearly. They found a small, neutral space to perform the vow, a quiet alcove near the garden where a fountain ran. A retired caretaker sweeping the walkway agreed to be the witness. He didn't ask questions. He just nodded for them to proceed. Asha removed her wristband, pressing her thumb to deactivate the civic display. She faced Myron. "Repeat what I say." "Exactly." He nodded. "I acknowledge the imbalance that brought us together." He repeated, voice steady. "I return dignity to you, as you return dignity to me." He repeated, "We stand equal now, bound by nothing but choice." He repeated. Asha lifted her hand, palm forward. Myron did the same. They touched palms just once brief. The caretaker cleared his throat softly. Simple and clean. Balance witnessed. He walked away without ceremony. Asha held her palm to her chest. The smallest smile appeared. "It's done. No more debt," Myron said. "No more debt," she echoed. And it felt lighter. Air entered her lungs differently. Easier. They walked again, and this time, Asha was the one who said, "Stay with me today." Not as protector, as company. "I can do that," he said. They spent the day doing what Asha asked for, living. They tried foods from stalls, grilled meat with different spice blends, roasted roots wrapped in sea leaf, and a bitter fruit drink she spat out immediately, making Myron laugh for the first time. They watched a street musician, and Asha leaned against the railing next to him, not needing space between them. They talked, not about strategy or fear, but about small things. She told him what her home smelled like during festival season. He told her how space tasted recycled after long patrols and why the first breath of open air always hit hardest. No cameras pointed at them. No messages arrived. For a few hours, life felt untouched. As evening approached, they returned to her apartment, now her home, not a hideout. She unlocked the door and stepped inside first. Myron followed, ready to leave her to her evening, believing this was the moment she might choose independence now that the debt was gone. Asha placed her pouch and new civic ID on the table, then turned to him. "You said you'd leave when I no longer needed you." She spoke calmly, but her fingers tightened slightly at her sides. "The imbalance is gone. I'm free." "Yes," he said. He felt something tighten in his chest he hadn't expected. He prepared himself for her to ask him to go, but she surprised him. "I don't need you to stay," she said. "I want you to." The words landed differently, clean, deliberate, chosen. Myron didn't step closer immediately. He watched her face, looking for hesitation. There was none, just sincerity and a nervous hope. "You're sure?" he asked, not out of insecurity, but respect. Asha nodded once. "Stay, not as duty, as someone in my life." He stepped forward, not fast, not claiming, just present, accepted. "If I stay," he said, "it's because I want to build something with you. Something real. No debts, no rescues, just us figuring out what that looks like." Asha exhaled, and some quiet, warm emotion replaced the guarded steel she always carried. "That's what I want," she said. He stayed. The door remained open behind him, not shutting her world in, but inviting a future forward. No threat hung over them now. No imbalance. No silence forced. Just a beginning they chose together. And this time, neither of them felt alone walking into it.